Hello friends, in this video we will talk about suit of salts. In this video we will talk about what is suit of salts and we will also discuss the 14 cards in the suit of salts. See, the suit of salts are 14 cards in tarot which have the imagery of salt. So each and every card of tarot has some imagery, and in the 14 cards of suit of swords you will find the imagery of salt in them. So each and every card in tarot has some imagery, and in order to decode that card, you need to meditate on that imagery and connect that imagery to the present social circumstances and also to the person. You have to connect that imagery to the person also and with the society in general. For example, the card in front of you is the three of swords. So just meditate on this imagery. What is there? There is a heart, and that heart is pierced by three swords. So this imagery represents breakups. It represents very traumatic experience, very heartbreaking moments in life. It also represents backstabbing. So you have to connect the imagery which is represented by this card to the person for which the reading is being given. Our next point is, each and every suit in tarot represents some element, and the element represented by the suit of swords is air. And air represents intellect, it represents sharpness, it represents a very philosophical personality, it also represents mental prowess, and it also represents strength. Soul is a thing which people do not want to mess with. It has the ability to cause harm, it has the ability to do things. It represents power, it represents authority, it represents that the person is a very has inherent strength. And the suit of swords represents the direction east, and it also means taking tough decisions in life. If you get a if you get in a reading the a card from the suit of swords, it means that now is the time to take tough decisions, or in the past you have faced some circumstances because of which you now have to take tough decisions in life, or your previous life was a very tough, so it represents some toughness. Now we will talk about all the 14 cards. Our first card is King of Swords. So King of Swords represents doctors, business people, businessmen, judges, lawyers. It represents government officers who are posted in very high post. It also represents that the person has the ability to discriminate between things. It is an intellectual personality, knows what is right, what is wrong, and is a person with people with which people do not want to mess up with. Now next card is the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords represents breakup of relationships, fights, divorce, widow, but it also represents a very strong personality, a very independent person. The next card is Knight of Swords. Knight of Swords represents action. It represents getting into the battle, getting into the situation and facing the situation, facing the challenges. So if you get the Knight of Swords, it means that you have the inherent skills, you have the inherent strength. Now just put them into action. Next is Page of Swords. See, Page of Swords, it represents youth. It represents a very youthful personality. It represents in a very inexperienced person, an amateur person, and it represents that the person now needs some experience in order to fulfill his desires. Ace of Swords, it represents defeat. It represents like something. evil has happened or something bad has happened in the past. But it also represents clarity of thought. It also represents some achievement which is gained after very long struggle, and it also represents fall from position. Next card is two of swords. It represents insecurity, it represents introspection, it represents the that the person is alone and totally on his own, and now he has to use his inherent strength and skills in order to face the challenges of life. Next is the Three of Swords. As we discussed earlier, Three of Swords represents breakup in relationships, or backstabbing. It also represents deep traumatic experiences, but it also represents now like getting into touch with the reality. Like earlier, a person was in some illusions. He was lost in his own illusions, but now he has come back to reality. Three of swords, four of swords. See, four of swords, it represents that the person is religious, he is philosophical, and now what he needs is rest. It also represents protection, and in the negative side it represents death. Now we have the five of swords. See, five of swords represents, it's a card of backstabbing. It is a card of deceit. It represents that like a person is scheming or planning behind your back and is looking for an opportunity to attack you. It also represents defeat in court battles. The seven of the six of swords. The six of swords represents protection. It represents a safe passage. It also represents like the person will come out of the situation. Like if you are in a very bad situation and you get six of swords in a reading, it represents that somehow you will get out of this situation safely. And it also represents help, like a person will come and help you to get out of the situation. Now we have seven of swords. Seven of swords, sometimes it represents achievements, and it also represents theft. It also represents like the person is running away from the challenges of life, is not facing the challenges of life. It represents cowardness, that a person is a coward. The eight of swords, it represents that the person is in a very bad situation, very bad circumstances, is unable to make changes in life, is not free, or it represents bondage, slavery. It also represents jail. And but it all in the positive side, it represents that now is the time to introspect and plan for the future. You have to plan in order to how to get out of your situation, so it represents deep introspection. Next card is nine of swords. It represents bad dreams, nightmare. It represents that now you have to face the worst situation of life. And it also represents confinement, jail. It also represents the inability to make decisions in life, like you are not free to make decisions in life, and you are in a very deep traumatic state. And in the positive side, it represents like some form of divine protection is there for you. The ten of swords, it is a very heavy card. It represents death in the in its most common interpretation is death, defeat, or misfortune. But in the positive side, it also represents like new beginnings will be there in life. And if other cards in this spread are supportive, it also means that you will be able to conquer your enemies. So thank you. I have tried my best to explain you the suit of swords. Do like this video and do comment your experience with the suit of salts. Thank you.